Hi, this is Jerry White again, and each one of us has numbers of areas in our life where we have an opportunity to dig deeper, and it's a great concept when you get together with other people and you get to find out what they do and use and know. One of the backgrounds that I've had is working with athletes and looking at the performance, functional performance, what can go wrong. My laboratory at the Shriners Hospital looked a lot at those particular aspects, but then when I started as an athlete, as a swimmer, college swimmer, moving into being a coach, you really get curious about how can we improve on the function. And there are several different areas that in our discussion about ASEA and redox signaling that I want to kind of introduce you to. We can go into some greater detail later, but think about it first. In that major study that was done down at Appalachian State, we looked at the burn system. How do we make the fuel that runs the system? And that's called the Krebs cycle inside of the little cellular power plants. And we find that around puberty, it changes from burning predominantly fats first to burning sugars first. Now, you're going to need the sugars or the muscle glycogens for parts of the race, and what happens if you use them up early, you end up burning too quickly and you build up the acid, we call it lactic acid, and you're fighting against yourself. And so the farther you go into the race, the more you feel like you're slugging up, and you're fighting against your own muscle activity. You can't loosen up and relax. So in this particular study, they found that when you get to that threshold age around puberty, you start to burn the sugars first, and that's problematic. Because when you burn fats first, like little kids do, it's 60 times more energy density per molecule than it is when you're burning sugars. That could be at your advantage. It seems to burn cleaner. It doesn't seem to use up those critical muscle glycogens we need when it comes to the sprint at the end of the race or carrying on at the last part of the game. We now have seen that we can apply this, just drinking this technology, and one of the first things we see is that it allows you that energetic. So let me just give you an example. A runner I have, 48 years old, he was going after the world record in the 2-mile, indoor 2-mile run. And for many of us, if you ran that 2 miles, you'd get pooped out in the first mile and you start tying up. There's a lot of different names for it. But the second mile then becomes much harder. You've already built up that acid and burned up the system. Well, what we found was that if we could release the tension on his body and his muscles by applying a topical gel called Renew 28, that we could see a very quick response in flexibility that seemed to last throughout the race. His results were in an early season race trying to break a 30-year-old world record. He was going to do it during the season. It was too early to really make an attempt now. But we applied it, and he saw a tremendous flexibility gain just in his stretching before he ran. Ran through the race, got to the middle part, and he was holding back, very significantly holding back. Turned on the jets, and he told me after the race, he said, "I have never felt anything like this in my 49 years of life." He took off so fast that his second mile was so fast that if it was pulled out from the day and time and moved 2 weeks earlier, it would have won the U.S. Nationals in the mile. Not only did he catch back up with the leaders, but he broke that 30-year-old record by 17 seconds. Can you imagine what this could do for people that you know, the weekend athlete, the people who are working on it? Another one is there's a very significant problem with over-exerting yourself without recovery. We call it overtraining. In his case, he had torn the quad muscle, and he was attempting for the world record in the mile. He tore the quads. He broke his foot, got 2 bouts of pneumonia, and one of West Nile virus, all in the same season. So I think we'd probably imagine that he was overtrained, under-recovered. So we put him on 8 ounces of this a day, and he took off for the next month and didn't have any injuries. Went on to break the world record by an astounding 6 seconds. What's happening there is essentially we see that you stop fighting yourself, and we watch the body recover much more quickly. Much more like you did when you were young. We've got a good friend who played in the NFL, Tom Beasley, and he says that when he was a young man in his 20s, he could play a game and then be bounced back and ready to play again on Tuesday. But by the time he got to the end of his career, short 12 years later, it was Thursday or Friday or Saturday before he was ready to go for the next Sunday game. And you can well imagine you can go past that, and you just keep breaking down consistently over time. So in my own personal experience, I've swam for 50 years competitively. And I could do 4 lengths of the pool, 100 yards, short course. And I knew how long it would take me. And I knew what my heart rate was and how much exertion it was. And I began to use this at a rate of about 4 ounces a day. Staggeringly, within a couple of weeks, I was able to go 3 seconds faster, do 10 of them in a row, and my heartbeat was lower. You just don't do that. You're going to see some things that are very interesting to check. I'm going to compel you, when you start to use this, you're going to use the topical application of Renew 28. You're going to use the oral form. And there are many different specifics that we can use in athletics to help your system become more flexible, more functional, and much more adaptive. But in my case, I was astounded. It was that creativity that began to work in my head. So we apply it to a lot of different things. We'll show you how we can test your body's current stress levels to movement, and then apply it, and then turn around and check it again. Just the simple fact that you seem to be communicating much better in your system is very significant. So my wife, for example, if we pulled her arms back and stretched her shoulders, it stops. She's very tight. But then we apply a simple gel over the skin, and in just a matter of seconds, we can see her improve as much as 20 inches in how far she moves. Each of these things is available for you to just check out. If you feel it, it makes a difference. Don't fight yourself. Allow yourself to go through those motions. So this is a beginning. Prepare yourself, because we're going to get into some really good stuff.